The deposit has to be paid today. The doctor slid a stack of papers across the consultation table. If we delay, your husband may never wake up. At the bottom of the last page, one blank line waited for my signature. Authorization for recurring withdrawals. Account holder, Claire Bennett. Estimated admission deposit, $180,000. Projected annual care costs, $330,000 minimum. I stared at the numbers, then slowly looked up at the woman wearing the white coat. A delicate gold necklace rested against her throat. The pendant was a single letter. L. I'd seen that necklace before. Not in person, on an anonymous internet forum, less than 3 hours earlier. At 8:14 that morning, I wasn't thinking about hospitals, or betrayal, or inheritance. I was standing in line for coffee beneath my office building in downtown Seattle. 6 people waited ahead of me. The espresso machine screamed every few seconds. I opened a local marriage forum to waste a minute before work. One headline stopped me cold. My girlfriend is pregnant. My wife just inherited $1.7 million. How do I get the money before I divorce her? I almost kept scrolling. Then one number caught my eye. $1.7 million. Exactly 3 days earlier, my mother's house overlooking Lake Washington had been sold through the trust she'd created before she died. After taxes and closing costs, the proceeds transferred into a separate account held only in my name. The final amount was just over $1.7 million. Curiosity became unease. I opened the post. The anonymous writer explained that his wife had recently inherited money through her late mother's estate. The funds couldn't easily be claimed in a divorce because they'd remained separate property. He wanted the money first, then the divorce. The most popular reply appeared almost immediately beneath it. It wasn't advice. It was a blueprint. Stage an emergency. A car accident works best. Convince her you're dying. Recommend an expensive private neurological facility. Drain her account while she's terrified. Wake up after the money is gone. Then leave her. A minute later, the original poster replied. Exactly what I needed. Thanks. A chill crawled across my back. Who writes something like that? Who reads it? And thanks the stranger? I should have closed the page. Instead, I opened the profile. The account was anonymous, but careless. Several old photographs remained. A man's wrist, half a smiling face, luxury apartments, baby furniture. One image showed a woman's hand resting against his. Around her neck hung a thin gold necklace shaped like the letter L. The caption read, "Elle and our baby deserve a real home." My pulse quickened. It still wasn't proof. Seattle contained thousands of women whose names started with L, thousands of husbands, thousands of inheritances. I was searching for connections because the human brain hates coincidence. That's what I told myself. Even so, I captured screenshots, recorded the entire page, copied the profile link, saved every timestamp, then reported the account. By the time the barista called my name, I'd convinced myself I was overreacting. At 11:03, my phone rang during a project meeting. Unknown number. Seattle. I almost ignored it. Then I answered. Is this Claire Bennett? Yes. This is Harbor Ridge Medical Center. The woman's voice became noticeably gentler. Your husband was involved in a serious motor vehicle accident. He arrived unconscious. You need to come immediately. The conference room disappeared around me. I barely heard the rest. Head injury, critical condition, family authorization, possible neurological emergency. I grabbed my coat before the call even ended. The elevator doors closed. As they descended, one sentence from the forum echoed inside my head. Create an emergency. I clenched my jaw. No, I whispered to myself. This is different. It has to be. Inside the rideshare, I forced myself to think instead of panic. First, and I forwarded every screenshot, every recording, every forum link to Rachel Hayes, my closest friend, a family law attorney who specialized in protecting inherited assets. Second, I searched Harbor Ridge's public policies on neurological death determinations. If Ethan truly had catastrophic brain damage, I wanted to understand what doctors would actually be looking for. Third, I turned on continuous audio recording and automatic cloud backup. If grief clouded my judgment, facts wouldn't. Rachel called before the driver reached the hospital. Claire? Her voice was calm. Too calm. Listen carefully. Don't accuse anyone. Don't sign anything. No financial authorizations. No automatic withdrawals. No power of attorney. Nothing involving your inheritance. I stared out the window. You really think that post could have been Ethan? I think the amount is too specific to ignore. I closed my eyes. I feel insane. No, Rachel answered quietly. You feel frightened. Those aren't the same thing. Harbor Ridge Medical Center rose above the street in steel and glass. The automatic doors slid open. A nurse checked my identification, then led me into a consultation room beside the intensive care unit. The attending physician will be with you shortly. She left. I sat alone, hands folded tightly together, trying not to imagine Ethan lying somewhere behind the walls. The door opened. A woman in a white coat stepped inside, carrying a patient file. She removed her mask, smiled politely, then introduced herself. I'm Dr. Lily Hart. My eyes dropped automatically to the gold necklace resting against her throat. A single polished letter. L. Lily. The name escaped my lips before I could stop it. The doctor's smile didn't change. Have we met? No, I answered too quickly. I don't think so. She extended her hand. I'm Dr. Lily Hart, Chief of Neurological Critical Care. Her handshake was warm, steady, practiced. If she recognized me, she didn't show it. She placed Ethan's chart on the table. Your husband suffered significant head trauma. He remains unconscious. We've stabilized him. Yeah, but the next 24 hours are critical. Every sentence sounded professional, measured, exactly the way a physician should speak. And yet, I couldn't stop staring at the gold necklace resting against her collarbone. The same delicate letter, L. The same one from the forum photographs. Lily opened the chart. The CT scan shows swelling. We're monitoring for increased intracranial pressure. If the swelling worsens, he may require long-term neurological care. She slid another folder toward me. Harbor Ridge partners with a private rehabilitation institute. Their outcomes are excellent. I looked at the cover. Evergreen Neurological Recovery Center, Premium Residential Program. Estimated annual cost, $330,000. The exact figure from the forum. I felt my pulse pounding in my ears. What are the chances he'll need this? Lily folded her hands. It's impossible to know. But families who prepare early usually make better decisions. Prepare early. Another familiar phrase. The forum had used almost the same words. The door opened. Before I could answer, my mother-in-law rushed into the room. Margaret Bennett, still wearing the gardening gloves she'd forgotten to remove. The moment she saw me, she burst into tears. My poor boy. She clutched my shoulders. You have to save him. I'll do anything. She turned immediately toward Lily. What does he need? The doctor answered without hesitation. Time. And financial authorization if long-term placement becomes necessary. Margaret looked at me. You inherited your mother's money. Use it. The words came so naturally, as though she'd rehearsed them. I hadn't even seen Ethan yet. No one had explained his injuries in detail. No neurologist had shown me scans. But somehow, everyone was already talking about my inheritance. A nurse entered quietly. "Mrs. Bennett." "You may see your husband now." I followed her into the intensive care unit. Machines hummed softly. Monitors blinked. Ethan lay perfectly still beneath crisp, white sheets. Bandages wrapped around his forehead. Bruises colored one side of his face. His breathing looked natural. Almost peaceful. Too peaceful. I stepped closer, reached for his hand. It was warm. Warmer than I'd expected. I whispered his name. No response. Nothing. Then, I noticed something strange. His wedding ring, gone. We'd never taken our rings off. Not once in 11 years. I looked at the nurse. "Where is his ring?" She checked the chart. It wasn't listed among his personal belongings. My stomach tightened. Ethan would rather forget his wallet than his wedding ring. My phone vibrated silently. "Rachel, don't sign anything. I'm 20 minutes away." I slipped the phone back into my pocket, then looked at Ethan again. His eyelids didn't move. His breathing remained perfectly steady. But something felt that off. Not medically, personally. Like I was standing beside someone pretending to sleep. Outside the ICU, Lily was already waiting. She handed me another packet. "This authorizes evaluation at Evergreen. I'd like to secure his place before beds become unavailable." I didn't touch the papers. "Can another neurologist review his condition first?" For the first time, her expression changed. Only slightly. "It could delay treatment." "It could," I agreed. "But I'd still like an independent opinion." Margaret immediately stepped between us. "Claire, what are you doing? The doctor is trying to save your husband." I looked at her. "I'm asking for a second opinion." "That's normal." "No," she snapped. "What's normal?" "Oh, is trusting the physician." Lily gently touched Margaret's arm. "It's all right," she smiled sympathetically. "Families often struggle during traumatic events." She turned back to me. "I understand your hesitation." Then she lowered her voice. "So let me ask you something. If Ethan doesn't wake up, will you forgive yourself for wasting precious time?" The question landed exactly where she intended. Not in my head, in my guilt. Rachel arrived before I could answer. She walked into the consultation room carrying a slim leather briefcase. "I represent Claire Bennett." She smiled politely at Lily. "We'll review every recommendation before any financial authorization is signed." Lily returned the smile. Professional. Flawless. "Of course." Rachel placed her business card on the table, then looked directly at me. "Claire." "May I speak with you privately?" The moment we stepped into the hallway, she leaned close enough that only I could hear. I checked the forum account. My heart stopped. "What did you find?" Rachel's face had gone completely pale. The anonymous profile used the same recovery center that doctor just recommended. Rachel didn't speak again until we reached the hospital cafeteria. She opened her laptop, pulled up the screenshots I'd sent that morning, then opened the business registration for Evergreen Neurological Recovery Center. "Look." She rotated the screen toward me. The listed contact person matched the form reply almost perfectly. Not by name, by destination. The anonymous account had recommended exactly one facility. The same one Dr. Lily Hart wanted me to authorize less than an hour after I arrived. That wasn't a coincidence anymore. It was a pattern. Rachel looked at me carefully. "I still don't have proof Ethan wrote that post." But somebody inside this plan knew about Evergreen long before today's accident. And somebody expected you to pay. I nodded slowly. I know. No, she corrected gently. You suspect. Don't confuse suspicion with evidence. That was why I'd called Rachel. She never let emotion outrun facts. Back in the consultation room, Dr. Lily Hart had already prepared another folder. This only reserves Ethan's placement. She smiled reassuringly. No payment today, no commitment, just paperwork. Rachel didn't even sit down. We'll need copies of everything. Every page. And we'd like the complete medical record. Lily's smile faded almost imperceptibly. Those documents aren't normally released this quickly. Rachel returned the same polite tone. They are when legal counsel requests them. Dr. Samuel Levin, the medical director, walked in before Lily could answer. I understand there are concerns. He extended his hand to Rachel first, then to me. I'd like to personally review Mr. Walker's case. Lily shifted beside him. I've already explained the neurological risks. I'd still like to verify the documentation. Levin replied calmly. Professional. Firm. For the first time since arriving, I saw genuine tension cross Lily's face. While Dr. Levin reviewed Ethan's chart, I quietly walked back toward the ICU observation window. Ethan hadn't moved. The cardiac monitor traced steady green waves across the screen. His oxygen mask rested comfortably over his face. No ventilator. No emergency procedures. No frantic staff rushing in and out. Just stillness. Almost too perfect. A nurse adjusted one of the IV pumps. I watched her for a moment, then asked quietly, Has he responded at all? She hesitated. I wasn't here when he arrived. But she stopped herself. But what? She glanced down the hallway before answering. I've worked neuro for 12 years. I've never seen transfer paperwork prepared this quickly. Before I could ask another question, she walked away. 20 minutes later, Dr. Levin returned. He closed Ethan's chart, then looked directly at Lily. Where's the toxicology report? She answered immediately. It's pending. And the metabolic panel? Still processing. The documented neurological examination? I completed a preliminary assessment. Levin's expression hardened. A preliminary assessment. It doesn't support the language you used. The room became noticeably quieter. Lily folded her arms. I believed the family should prepare for the worst. The chart states, Levin interrupted, that Mr. Walker may be approaching brain death. He tapped the paperwork. That's a very specific statement. Where's the apnea test? Silence. Where's the independent neurology consult? Still nothing. And why? He lifted another document from the folder. Is there already a transfer packet for Evergreen? Rachel and I exchanged a quick glance. There it was. Dr. Levin slowly flipped through the packet. Admission agreement, private room, equipment rental, respiratory support, recurring billing authorization, estimated first-year cost, over $300,000. Everything had already been assembled, waiting for one signature. Mine. He stopped on the final page. Who prepared this? Lily answered quietly. I requested it. Before the neurological evaluation? Yes. Before discussing the case with me? Yes. The silence afterward felt deafening. Margaret suddenly stood. This is ridiculous. My son could die while everyone argues over paperwork. She pointed directly at me. Claire has the money. She should sign. Rachel answered before I could. My client will authorize any treatment, supported by appropriate medical evidence. Margaret's voice rose. So money matters more than Ethan's life? I looked at her. No. The truth matters. She stared at me in disbelief. What happened to you? I almost answered. Nothing happened to me. I simply stopped confusing guilt with love. Before I could speak, the ICU doors opened. A technician hurried toward Dr. Levin carrying another folder. Doctor, you need to see this. Levin opened it, read the first page, then looked sharply at Lily. Why, was the sedative screen never ordered? Why wasn't the sedative screen ordered? Dr. Levin's voice echoed through the consultation room. No one answered. He looked at Lily again. I'm asking a very simple question. Mr. Walker arrived with a reported catastrophic neurological injury. You documented possible brain death. So, where are the toxicology results? Lily swallowed. The laboratory was delayed. Then where's the metabolic workup? We were still collecting samples. And the apnea test? Silence. The silence lasted just long enough to make everyone in the room uncomfortable. Dr. Levin slowly closed the chart. Brain death isn't a feeling. It isn't an impression. It isn't something we suggest because families are frightened. It requires evidence. He looked directly at me. Mrs. Bennett, your husband has not been declared brain dead. Then he turned back toward Lily, and based on this chart, then he's nowhere close to that determination. Margaret immediately shook her head. So, you're saying there's hope? I'm saying, Levin answered carefully, that no physician should be discussing permanent neurological placement before completing a proper evaluation. Rachel quietly slid my phone into my hand. The audio recorder was still running. Every word, every pause, every contradiction. Safely backed up. Lily took one slow breath. I was only trying to help the family prepare. Rachel didn't raise her voice. Preparing them. And with the recurring payment authorization? She lifted the evergreen contract. $180,000. Today. Over $12,000 every month. Unlimited additional medical charges. She turned another page. This authorization allows automatic withdrawals from any account designated by my client. Lily didn't respond. Doctor, Levin frowned. I never approved this packet. His eyes moved across the paperwork, then stopped. What is this? He pulled a business card from the back of the folder. Thomas Hart, Executive Director, Evergreen Neurological Recovery Center. Levin looked at Lily. Mr. Hart? She answered almost too quickly. My uncle. The room went completely silent. Rachel slowly folded her arms. So, the physician recommending Evergreen. Oh, has a family relationship with the person operating Evergreen. Lily's face lost its color. I disclosed it internally. Where? Levin asked. I don't see any disclosure. She couldn't finish. Before anyone spoke again, Margaret stepped forward. Enough. My son is dying. I don't care who owns the facility. If Evergreen can save Ethan, then Claire needs to stop asking questions and start acting like his wife. She pointed straight at me. You inherited $1.7 million. What good is money? If you won't spend it to save your husband. The hallway outside had grown crowded. Several visitors slowed down. Nurses glanced toward the raised voices, exactly what Margaret wanted. An audience. I looked at her quietly. You've known about my inheritance for 3 days. She blinked. So? You also knew the exact deposit, the monthly cost, the transfer process. How? She opened her mouth. Nothing came out. Robert finally entered the conversation. His voice remained calm, almost reasonable. We're only trying to save Ethan. Families don't argue over money during emergencies, Rachel answered before I could. Interesting. She tapped the contract. Then why hasn't anyone offered to mortgage their own assets? Robert frowned. What? You own a debt-free condominium in Bellevue, Rachel continued, worth roughly $700,000. If Evergreen is truly Ethan's only hope, why aren't you paying the deposit? Margaret's expression changed instantly. That condo is our retirement. Rachel nodded once. I see. So your retirement is protected? Yes, but Claire's inheritance isn't. No one answered, because there was no answer. Just then, my phone vibrated. A notification from the cloud backup. The recording had safely uploaded. I glanced at the screen, then froze. The enlarged image from this morning's forum screenshot had finally finished processing. The blurred photograph looked clearer now. A man's wrist, a woman's hand, the gold necklace, and reflected faintly in the apartment window behind them was Ethan. His face wasn't fully visible, but it was visible enough. Enough to recognize him. Enough to know. I hadn't imagined any of it. I slowly raised my eyes toward Lily. You've met my husband before today, haven't you? You've met my husband before today, haven't you? For the first time since entering the consultation room, Dr. Lily Hart didn't answer immediately. Her eyes flickered toward the enlarged photograph on my phone, then back to me. We've met professionally. I turned the screen around. The reflection in the apartment window wasn't perfect. It didn't need to be. Ethan's profile, his watch, his jacket, the same woman wearing the gold L necklace, the same apartment shown in the forum account. That doesn't look like a hospital, I said quietly. Lily's voice remained controlled. You're making assumptions. Rachel stepped beside me. No, she's asking questions. You've asked her to sign financial documents. She has every right to know who's recommending them. Before Lily could answer, Dr. Levin held out his hand. I'd like to see that photograph. He studied it silently, then returned my phone. I can't identify anyone from this image alone, he answered honestly. But I can identify a serious conflict of interest. He looked at Lily. You should have disclosed any prior relationship with this patient's family. Lily finally lost her composure. This is becoming personal. No, Rachel corrected. It became personal. Then, when you recommended your uncle's facility, it became legal. When you asked my client to authorize recurring withdrawals. Before anyone could continue, a shrill electronic chirp echoed through the hallway. A tiny blue light blinked beneath Lily's hair. An earbud. She instinctively reached toward it, then stopped. Too late. Rachel had already seen it. So, you've been wearing that the entire time? Lily frowned. It's connected to the hospital communication system. Dr. Levin looked directly at her. Our staff radios don't use personal earbuds. The room grew very quiet. Margaret stepped forward again. This is ridiculous. My son is dying, and you're interrogating his doctor. She turned toward the visitors gathering outside the consultation room. Please tell me I'm not the only one who thinks this is cruel. Several people looked uncomfortable. One older woman nodded sympathetically. Another whispered, they should focus on saving him first. Margaret seized the moment. She pointed straight at me. Claire inherited $1.7 million 3 days ago. And now she refuses to help her own husband. The words spread through the hallway like spilled ink, exactly as she'd intended. I looked at her calmly. For 6 years, you've told everyone I couldn't give Ethan a child. She folded her arms. Because it's true. I opened my phone, scrolled to an encrypted medical folder, then turned the screen toward her. No, it isn't. Rachel recognized the document immediately. Northwest Reproductive Medicine. 3 years earlier. Complete fertility evaluation. Margaret frowned. What is this? Ethan's diagnosis, I answered. He asked me to keep it private. So I did. I let everyone believe I was infertile. Because protecting him mattered more than protecting myself. The hallway became noticeably quieter. I opened the final page. 3 laboratory reports. 1 conclusion. No detectable sperm. Robert's face drained of color. Margaret reached for my phone. That's fake. It has the laboratory verification code, Rachel replied. You can authenticate it. Margaret's hands slowly fell back to her side. For years, she'd humiliated me at every family gathering. Baby socks, prenatal vitamins, fertility brochures, church gossip. Every insult had been aimed at the wrong person. And I'd allowed it, because Ethan asked me to. Lily suddenly spoke. Medical records don't explain today's emergency. No, I agreed. But they do explain something else. I looked directly at her. You're pregnant. She instinctively rested a hand across her stomach. So? Ethan told me. Your baby is his. Her breathing changed. Only slightly, but enough. If that's true, I continued. How do you explain these reports? For the first time, uncertainty crossed her face. Not guilt, calculation. She was deciding which lie to protect first. Then a sharp burst of static crackled from beneath her hair. The tiny blue light flashed again. This time, everyone heard it. Lily reached into her coat pocket. A phone screen lit up. The call timer read 004318. Rachel stepped closer. Who's been listening? For the last 43 minutes? Lily froze. No answer. I looked at the caller ID displayed across the top of the screen. My heart stopped. The name on the active call was only one word. Ethan. At that exact moment, something heavy crashed inside the intensive care unit. The automatic ICU doors burst open. Someone was running toward us. The ICU doors burst open. A respiratory therapist sprinted into the hallway. Dr. Levin! He just got out of bed! Every conversation stopped. Lily's phone slipped from her hand. It hit the floor, face up. The active call was still connected. Ethan. 43 minutes. He hadn't been unconscious. He'd been listening. Dr. Levin didn't hesitate. He rushed toward the ICU with 2 nurses close behind. Rachel grabbed Lily's phone before she could. Don't. Lily reached for it. That's hospital property. Rachel looked at the screen. No, it belongs to you. And this, she held up the active call, belongs to the police. Inside the ICU, voices echoed through the corridor. Sir, you need to lie back down. A loud crash, then another. Seconds later, Ethan appeared in the doorway, hospital gown, bare feet. The cardiac monitor lead still hanging from his chest. He froze the moment he saw everyone watching, especially me. Nobody spoke. Nobody had to. A man supposedly too brain-injured to survive, that was standing on his own. Dr. Levin slowly walked toward him. Mr. Bennett, would you like to explain why you're walking? Ethan looked around desperately, then at Lily, then at me. Finally, his eyes settled on the phone in Rachel's hand. Everything changed. He knew. Margaret rushed to him. My baby. She wrapped her arms around him. You're awake. Ethan barely acknowledged her. Instead, he whispered one sentence. Lily, why didn't you disconnect the call? The hallway went completely silent. He just answered the only question that mattered. He knew about the call. because he'd been part of it. Rachel calmly pressed the screen record button. So you've been listening. To every conversation your wife had with the doctors. Ethan didn't answer. He couldn't, because every answer led to another lie. Hospital security arrived first, then the compliance officer, then 2 detectives from Seattle Police. Dr. Levin handed them Ethan's chart himself. I have serious concerns regarding fraudulent medical documentation and possible financial coercion. The detectives separated everyone immediately. No more whispered conversations. No more coordinated stories. Lily tried to explain. I believed his symptoms were genuine. Dr. Levin interrupted. Then why wasn't the sedative panel ordered? No answer. Why did you prepare a long-term transfer before completing the neurological evaluation? Silence. And why? He pointed toward Rachel's phone. Were you connected to your patient for 43 minutes through a private call? Lily lowered her eyes. She finally understood. There wasn't a believable answer anymore. The investigation moved quickly. Hospital security recovered surveillance footage. It showed Ethan walking into a restricted staff corridor less than 20 minutes after arriving by ambulance. Another camera captured Lily entering the same corridor, not as his physician, as someone embracing him. For nearly 30 seconds, there was no medical reason for it. Only familiarity. Digital investigators traced the anonymous forum account. The recovery email belonged to Ethan. Payment records connected the account to his personal credit card. The apartment photographs matched Lily's condominium. The so-called anonymous blueprint had never been anonymous at all. Then came the final twist. DNA testing was completed after Lily publicly claimed Ethan was the father of her unborn child. He wasn't. The child belonged to another man. For months, Lily had manipulated Ethan with a pregnancy that wasn't even his. The man willing to betray everyone had been deceived himself. Margaret sat silently through every interview. The detectives later recovered messages from a private family group chat. One text stood out. Once Claire pays evergreen, everything else becomes easier. Another. She'll never question doctors if Ethan looks close to death. Margaret never touched the medical paperwork, but she'd known exactly what the plan was. Months later, criminal charges were filed. Fraud, conspiracy, attempted financial exploitation, evidence tampering, professional misconduct. Lily lost her medical license. Ethan accepted a plea agreement after investigators uncovered the online posts, financial planning documents, and hospital communications. The court also ordered restitution for investigative costs and related financial losses. Margaret wasn't charged with the medical fraud itself, but she lost every civil claim she later tried to bring against me. Rachel asked me one question after everything ended. If you hadn't read that forum post, would you have signed? I looked through the courthouse window for a long time before answering. Yes. I would have signed everything, she nodded slowly. That's why they chose you. Not because I was foolish, because they believed love would always make me stop asking questions. Nearly a year later, I visited my mother's favorite overlook above Lake Washington. The inheritance she'd left me remained untouched, not because money mattered more than Ethan, but because the woman who raised me had spent her entire life teaching me one lesson. Love should never require you to abandon your judgment. The wind carried the scent of pine across the water. I slipped my phone into my pocket, turned away from the past, and walked home. For the first time in years. I wasn't wondering whether someone else was telling me the truth. I trusted my own eyes, and that was worth far more than $1.7 million.